because I kept getting them mixed up. Okay, if everybody can come back in, we're going to get started because I don't want to keep you too long, and we started 10 minutes late, so you got to give me at least 10 extra minutes at the end. I should say give Brent 10 extra minutes, otherwise that's not fair to him. I also want to mention, I'll leave this up here on the corner, this is kind of a neat little garden planner that you can slide depending on when your frost date is, and it tells you when to plant things. So this is kind of cool. It's for spring and fall planting. So if you want to take a picture of that, you can find those, I think, from Baker Creek, if I remember correctly. Do you know who Clyde is? Okay, so part 2. Why would anybody want to grow in the wintertime? Well, I was kind of sad at the end of the season about hanging up my shovels and hoes and being done. I kind of wanted to keep on gardening because it's kind of therapeutic for me. And not only that, but I just wanted to be able to have food. So that sent me on this quest of Googling, how to grow winter, without this and this. Because I thought, this is impossible because you have to have an expensive greenhouse, right? And then you have to heat it, and you have to do this and this and this and this. And I thought, you can't do that if you live off the grid. So how in the world can you do this in a budget, okay? So when I did my searching, I came across a man named Elliot Coleman, and I got all of his books. And you're welcome to look at this if you want to. And I started reading about how he was doing it. And so his motto is, unheated, uninsulated, unbelievable. He doesn't heat any of his greenhouses, okay? They're not insulated. And he was growing in the snow. And I said, I can do that too. So the first year, I think it's 8 years I've been doing this now. So the first year I took lots of pictures because I wanted to make sure that I could prove that this is possible. Yeah. And so people started hearing about what I was doing, and they said, you have to teach a class on this. So that's kind of how this whole thing was born many years ago. But anyway, there are 3 things to remember if you want to grow in the wintertime, okay? Number 1, grow the right things. Don't try to grow peppers and tomatoes and stuff like that, okay? Grow cold, hardy vegetables. And how do you know? I'll have a list here for you. But if you look in, especially Johnny's, they have a lot of winter seeds. It'll say winter. You'll know, okay? And the other thing to keep in mind is that the time from sowing your seed, you're direct sowing, by the way, into your greenhouse, okay? The time from direct sowing until you're actually eating it in an unheated greenhouse triples. So if you are trying to eat your turnips, and they say 50 days, multiply that by 3, so it's 150 days till you're going to be able to eat it. Okay, so we start in July, okay? And you need greenhouse plastic. Get the good stuff. Do not scrimp on this, okay? And if you can, get the stuff that has an anti-drip coating on it. So every time you're walking in there, you're not in a rainforest, okay? Trust me, I know from experience on that too. Get the 6 mil actual greenhouse plastic, okay? And then you will need these fabrics, which I will go over that again also. Here's a list you can take a picture of. These are actual plants that I have grown. I've grown every single one of those, and I know that they grow. The first year I grew all of those because I saw it in his book. Cool. If he can do it, I can do it too. So anyway, yeah, and then the dates in parentheses, I actually did the math. Oh, boy, because I wanted to do this right, okay? I actually did the math for every single seed packet. It said 50 days. I multiplied it by 3, 150, and then I would count back, and I'd say, okay, that has to go in the ground July 1st. That's how I did all of those dates, okay? You don't have to do that. I don't do that anymore. I just start in July. That's it. Everything goes in July. So I'm trying to save you guys some time and effort because we're all busy, right? All right, so you want to have a continual harvest. In other words, you don't want to put everything in the ground at the exact same time because everything will be ready at the exact same time. You'll be overwhelmed. So for winter planting, I do every 2 weeks, okay, starting in the middle of July. 2 weeks later, another planting. 2 weeks later, another planting. 2 weeks later, another planting, okay? And then I cut it off around the end of September. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you from beginning to end here how we built this, okay? You can go online. This is all over the place. People are building all sorts of structures and things like that. But I'm going to show you what we did. So We're busy like I'm sure most of you are, okay? We don't have a lot of time in the summer. So I went ahead and, like I said, I started with a wheelbarrow. I went out and just dug up dirt, and I just made a row with the dirt. You can see that's not fancy, okay? And then I just went to the hardware store, and I just got some, like, bags of manure, and I put that on there. That's that dark black stuff, okay? So we started out with the 20 by 12. Walkways were really small, only 12 inches, because I wanted more growing space than walk space, okay? So this is what we did. Then we started by framing in around it. I don't remember if those are 2 by 10s or what, but you used to be able to get rough cut lumber and stuff. I don't know if you can anymore, but that's how we got that. Okay, so that's the base. Now this is the secret to the snow, okay? That's rebar inside of the conduit. So we got 2 10-foot pieces of conduit, gray conduit. Do not use white PVC. When I drive by people's yards and I see these hoop houses with PVC, I want to go in there, knock on their door, and tell them it will break and crack, and they just don't last, okay? Get the gray conduit. You stick 2 10-foot pieces together. That gives you a 20-foot span. And then you buy 1 20-foot piece of rebar to stick inside of it. The rebar is the strength that you need. So then one person holds one end of it, and they bend really easy because they're so it over, and then just attach them inside there with clamps to the inside of the hoop house. I can't remember. It seems like they were every 2 or 2.5 feet, something like that. It kind of depends on how much snow you get. Okay, if you don't get very much snow, you don't need them very close. And then we put a top support. Now there's no rebar in the top. Okay. So with those 2 20-foot pieces down like that, that gives you a 6-foot tall ceiling, which is not very tall. You can remedy that by building a taller base and then putting your hoops up higher on that, or digging down into your greenhouse so you're actually stepping down into it a little bit. I've done that some. So this is what the front door looks like. It's not fancy, but what we did was at Les Schwab you can get tire, tubes for free. And we just cut strips, and that's how we attached the frame, because we didn't want any part of the frame that's going to be touching the plastic could rub holes in it. So we were trying to be really careful about that. So that's what it looked like when we were completely done, and you can see the plants already growing in there. So I was gung-ho, and I knew, this has to be in by such and such a date, and so I went ahead and did it before the greenhouse was built. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have gotten built. Some of us know how busy we are, right? But if you already have plants growing outside, honey, look, they're growing, they're going to die, quick. We have to get this thing up now. We have 1 week left. They're big. So you have plenty of time because it doesn't have to be covered till October. So that's why I'm saying go ahead and start. If you don't have time, like you're doing your wood and blah, blah, blah all summer long, go ahead and get your plants at least planted. So we covered both ends first. Clipped them, pulled them down tight, put little wooden furring strips, and that has held up really, really well, and then we cut the door out, okay? And this is how we attach the plastic to all the hoops on both ends. This is just a 1-inch water pipe, okay, water line, plastic, with a slit that cut it. Now this is kind of a 2-person job because these are kind of hard to open, so one person needs to hold these little squares on there while the other person, holds this open and then clamps it down over top. Now, sometimes these will start getting worn out, and then you get lots of snow one night, and they'll pop off during the middle of the night, and you lose them. So what I do is I buy those nice clips from Harbor Freight or something, and I'll put them at least couple on the tops, because that's where most of the weight is. And that holds them on really well in the winter. And then the other end, we did a huge vent called a half-moon vent, just with some door hinges there. And that's so that the whole thing can open all the way if you want it to get some really good ventilation going in there. Okay, and then lastly, we put the big piece over the sides there. And then we just used a bar to roll it up and down. We put the brackets on there to keep the plastic from falling off and rolling all over your garden. That just holds it in place there. So that's what it looked like when we were done. Now, since then, we've done some different improvements. I put some of that bird netting on the front of it because that's the side that I'm rolling up and down. And by the way, if you're just starting out and you're building it, make sure that your longest side is facing south, okay, because you want that sun. You want that southern sun exposure coming and getting as much of your greenhouse as you can, okay? In fact, right now you should be out looking. If you haven't built one yet, see where the sun is falling. See where the shadows are. If you don't want to put yours behind a bunch of trees or anything like that, so you want it the winter sun. If you're doing this for winter gardening, you want as much light from the winter that you can get. So I put the netting on the front just to keep the cat out because it was digging up carrots. That's what that was for. The automatic vent on the bottom right hand is, you can get those online. Those are wonderful. You don't have to babysit your greenhouse every day. It opens and closes automatically. It has wax in it, so when it gets hot, it melts and it opens your window, and then at night it closes it back up for you. It's fantastic. I think you just look up automatic greenhouse vent, something like that. And I can't remember, it's been so long, but I think Avent, A-V-E-N-T, I think that's the name brand, but I could be wrong. It's been a while. Okay, I've since enclosed the beds, and then we added a support beam across the top a few years later, just for a couple reasons. Number one, I wanted something I could tie plants to going up and down. And number two, I wanted some peace of mind, because sometimes if you get 2 feet of snow at night and you're just laying there thinking, is it going to make it, is it going to make it, is it going to make it? And you go up there and it's like, It never broke. It held up for probably 3 years without that beam, and it did fine. We never had any problems with it, but I was glad to have that for my peace of mind. So if you can do that, I would recommend it. They are cemented into the ground. I think they're 4x4 posts. Okay, and then we took the white PVC pipe out, and we put a metal pipe instead so that it would hold better. And then that handle there kind of moves in and out like that so that you can go up as far as you want. Push the handle in, and it'll hold it where you want it to be. So maybe you only want to go up 6 inches, or maybe you want to go all the way over. You can do that too. We added string to it. We just went like shoelaces. We went back and forth across one way and then back and forth the other way with little eyelet screws on the frame. And the reason being was to hold the plastic, because we were afraid we would get some kind of a big downburst or something and we would lose all of our plastic. But it also holds the plastic in place when you're rolling it up and down, so your handle's not flopping around all over the place. So the string was a really nice addition. And then the fan we added obviously for airflow, and it's hooked up to a solar panel. So it only runs when the sun is on it, which is great. So that just came out of a truck or something. I don't remember. But it keeps enough airflow in there to keep pests away. So if you are doing a greenhouse, make sure you have proper airflow, or you will have pests, especially spider mites. They like it hot. And I have friends that bought one of those kits with the corrugated plastic with the A-frame roof or whatever, and they cannot keep their greenhouse cooled down. It is constantly over 100 degrees in there. And they have both ends open, and they have fans running, and still, I have never had that issue. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because the plastic is not keeping the heat in as much as the corrugated pieces. So keep that in mind and do some research if you're just getting ready to look for a greenhouse. Think about that. Okay, so let's keep moving along. All right, so now you have your plastic over it, and it's probably around October, mid to late October. And now your plants think that they have moved 1.5 zones south. Yeah, I know, this is crazy. So if you started in a zone 5, now your plants think they're in a zone 6.5, just by adding that one layer of plastic. And you don't have to have it covered until October, remember. Okay, and then this is the best part. In November, you don't water anymore. So people say, I'm tired, I don't want to garden anymore. I don't want to water, I don't want to da-da-da-da. Well, you don't have to water all winter long. All you do is harvest food, okay? Then you go up there and harvest food. Now, if it's a nice day and it's 70 degrees in there, as it is many, many times, as soon as the sun pokes its head out once in a while, go up there and sit in your hammock or your lawn chair and maybe pull a few little weeds or something like that. I mean, it's so nice. Okay. All right, so this is the next secret. This is number 9 wire, okay? It comes in big rolls. And so what you do is you cut it to length of the width of your bed, okay? And then the length of the legs here depend on, well, I don't know. I guess it really doesn't matter. As long as from here to here has to be 12 inches. So from the top of your soil, not the top of the plant, okay, from the top of the soil to the top of this is 12 inches. So mine don't need to be this long. I should clip them off. They are kind of hard to get down in the dirt. And another word to the wise, get these in the dirt before your soil freezes in your greenhouse. Yes. Okay, and then you put them every 2 or 3 feet. And then, this is the secret, you cover them with this fabric, okay? This is your frost blanket again. And this is actually, it's called AG19. I'll leave it up here if anybody wants to come take a picture of it. But it's actually 0.55 ounces. That's what you want, okay? The 0.55 ounce AG19. And the reason you want this one is because it lets in 85% of the light. And in the wintertime, that's what your plants want, is they want the light. They don't want the heat, they want the light. Because they're winter plants, they like it cold. Okay, that's how you can do this in the winter without heat. So people have asked me, why not get a heavier fabric? Maybe you won't have as many plants freezing or whatever. So I went back and did some research on that. So according to Mr. Coleman here, the lightweight fabric versus the heavyweight fabric, it only adds 2 more degrees of warmth, but 50% of light instead of 85% of light, and more soil freezing because of the light's not getting in there. So stick with the AG19, okay? And then once you put those covers on your plants, now your plants have moved another 1.5 zones south. So now they think they're in a zone 8. It's amazing. So those are some temperatures that I took there. It was 21 degrees outside. This is not a sunny day. And 53 in the greenhouse. So it was probably 65 or so under the covers. I never did take any readings under the covers. But here's another tip for you. When you're going to go up there and harvest, don't go early in the morning because everything will be frozen. Okay? And you'll have to tear these. They tear really easily to get to stuff, and your plants will be frozen too. So wait until afternoon or whatever when things start thawing out so that you can go up there and harvest. And I usually get everything I need at the beginning of the week or whatever, get as much as you need for the week, and then you don't have to go back up there again or whatever. And if it's going to be really cold with negative temperatures, throw 2 of these over top, or just have a pile of old sheets. That's what I have, just a big old pile of sheets. Throw the sheets over top of everything until that really negative cold temperatures are gone. And then take those off because they need to breathe. You will have some damage to your plants. You know, when you've got minus 20 degrees, you will have some damage. You may lose a few plants, but overall, most everything should be okay. You may have to go up there on one of those really warm, sunny days and clip some of the dead leaves off of some of them so that, you know, what's in the center can keep growing. So like I said before, the most important thing to know is to keep the snow off so that light can get in. The plants want the light. And keep it shoveled away from the front, too. You don't want to have this big snowdrift building up. Even though you've got it off the greenhouse itself, you still don't want a snowdrift building up out here. Because if the sun is coming down like this, where are your plants? They're back behind that snowdrift down there. And they're not getting the light that they need. So if you have a snowblower or something, keep it blown away. So these are from one of Elliot's books, just some temperature readings that he did. I just thought that was fascinating, how cold it is outside, and look at what it is under the cover, 70 degrees. Okay, so these are questions that people ask sometimes. Why don't you sow any more seeds after October? Because the germination is too slow. The days are so short. That it's not really going to amount to anything. It may come up and it may get like an inch or 2 tall or something like that. And then when the longer days, like right now this time of year, when the longer days return, it'll take off and it'll go crazy, but it'll seed right away. It'll go to flower and it'll go to seed because these are winter plants and they don't like it warm. So just stop at the end of September. And then people have asked me too, why not do 2 layers of plastic? Well, number one, it's expensive. The plastic is expensive, so you don't want that extra cost right now. It reduces your light, and you have to have a blower blowing to keep air between those two layers. So then you're depending on electricity. So it's not necessary. And then some have asked, why not do cold frames, like wooden frames with, the glass covers on them or whatever, inside the greenhouse instead of doing, these type of wickets and things? Because the wood takes up a lot of space, it's expensive, and then you're going to have to go up there every single day and vent. Lift up that glass and vent everything, okay? And it's more expensive, I think I said that. But these are self-ventilating, okay? The air can get through, your water can get through, all of that, okay? It's much cheaper too. All right, so here's some ideas for you if you can't do a big one. You can look online. These things are all over the place on YouTube, kind of like the latest rage, I think. But these are just cattle panels. So I had a friend tell me they tried this and it fell down in the middle of the winter with the snow. So what I would recommend is just take a 2x4 and prop up the middle of it. And she said she did that the second year and it was fine. So when you know there's a big snow coming, just stick a board in there and keep it up. But that's easy, right? That's a simple thing. Just bend a cattle panel over and put some little 2x4s around the base of it. Throw some plastic on it. You can also do these. These are straw bales again with just, glass doors or windows over them. And then you would just take your covers like this and put them inside. Have yourself a little greenhouse like that. So people used to ask me, is that all you use your greenhouse for, is just winter stuff? The first year I did because I didn't know, how else to utilize all that space. So what I'm doing now, I will show you. I'll go month to month on how I am using it all year. So in January, in your house, you're sowing seeds. We already went over that, and I'll show you that again here. But I wanted to show you, I have one dedicated bed in the front that's closest to the southern exposure there. That's winter stuff. It's just always the winter bed, okay? That's what goes there. And that's the one you're looking there on the left picture. The picture on the top right, I wanted to show you in the center bed there, that's where tomatoes are. The tomatoes, if you remember, the tomatoes and carrots that grow together there. So what you're looking at there are carrots and celery. So I dug up the celery from the garden, I put it in there, and I covered it. So think about this. Now think about all the food that you have available to you. You've got onions in there that grow all year long if you let them go to seed. You've got carrots in there. You've got celery in there. You've already dug up your potatoes. You should already have your cabbage. You've got green beans, broccoli, and you've got all these things growing in there that you're either storing or they're growing fresh all year. And I know this seems overwhelming, but this is online. You can watch this over. You can stop it and pause it and think about it a little bit. But just do what you can, okay? So we already went over this, but what do you start in January? So this is the month of January and what's going on in there. And then February. This is just a sample. I can go back. I'll go back. See, teachers have eyes. Yes, and sometimes I talk way too fast. I'm sorry, because I'm watching the clock, and I'm like, okay, I got it. And then February, this is just a sample of what's growing in there in February. Isn't that amazing? I mean, most people are just looking at catalogs in February and dreaming about June. But this really is a miracle. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. It really is a miracle to be able to walk in there and have food. 365 days a year, you have food that you can feed your family. I hardly buy any of this stuff anymore. I just have it. And I take it for granted, I think, probably, but it's just amazing. That's why I want to teach other people they can do it too. All right, in February, these are the things you're growing, and this was in part 1 also, but I'm going month to month. Normally, in February, you would be taking all of your covers off. This has been a cold March for a lot of people, so I still have covers on. I'm hoping within the next week, I'm going to take the covers off. They'll do better. They like the ventilation. And then you will start watering again. When you start taking the covers off is when you start watering. And as you can see that picture there on the left, that's the first year. Look at all that food. That's in February, you guys. I was giving it away. Like I said, I tried every single variety that was on that chart. It was just amazing. March. I need to update the picture on the bottom to 2023 March. It looks just like that. You can see the picture on the left. That's in March. See the snow outside? It's rolled up because it's so hot in there. And I took the covers off and I ventilated it because, again, the plants don't like it very warm. Now, let me talk about the picture on the top right. That is the center bed at the end where the peppers are. Okay? So what I do is around August, I go under the peppers and I just start throwing a bunch of lettuce seeds, whatever. I'm always experimenting with different kinds. Lettuce is kind of cold hardy, really, a lot of it is. And so I just let the lettuce plants grow up, and then when the peppers are done, I just clip the plant. Don't yank the plant out of the ground because there goes all your lettuce, okay? Leave the stalk or the roots in there and just clip the plant off and just let the lettuce grow, and then you'll have all this lettuce even all winter long. And so I just throw a cover over that. And then it's almost time to start transplanting peppers in there. So I just move the lettuce around where I want it and put the peppers back in. So this is how I'm utilizing the space that I have. It's a small space, really, but that's how I'm utilizing all that space to do so much in a small space. Okay, this is still March. Getting your peas and cabbage and broccoli going and cauliflower if you haven't done that yet. Start those in your little seed trays. Okay, and then April and May kind of run together. It just depends on the weather, but this is when I will start the squash plants in the greenhouse because I'm tired of stuff being in my room, okay? And they do fine out there. And this is when you'll start your beans and your peas too, okay? Now you can see the winter bed, okay, on the left there. That's all a winter bed. And the center is probably the, I don't know, second or third year before I figured out how to use the whole greenhouse. So it was just empty. And then on the right, you can see the picture of the plants hardening off. You already saw this picture, but that's what's going on in the greenhouse in April and May, okay? They're getting ready to go into the ground. And then in May, you can see the picture on the left there. You see those flats of green beans growing in there? They're sitting there where I've already ripped out the winter plants because they're done. Okay, so now I have space to start my corn and my peas in that place right there. And we're still in May, I believe, April and May. Yep, okay. And then comes June. So by then and before then, your winter stuff is done, okay? You can see what it means when I say it's gone to seed. It's flowered, it's done. So usually what I do is I'll just pick one good hardy-looking plant and tie it up to one of the rebar going up there and save seeds just from that one and then rip everything else out. And June is when I will start adding more amendments. Maybe you want to put more manure in your winter bed or whatever you have and getting it ready for July, because July is when you start your winter stuff. Okay, and then June, after frost, you're going to start moving out your corn and your beans, you know, and your cabbages, your broccolis, whatever. If you haven't put them out yet, that's what's going on in June. Okay, and then you're still saving some seed from different plants, different methods and different ways. Like I said, you can ask me about a particular plant if you'd like on how to save it. Okay, and then here comes July. So July is when you're going to start your winter sowing. These are direct sowing, remember, okay? You're not transplanting anything. You're just putting the seeds directly into the ground. Now, the picture on the left there, you can see little dark lines. That's where the seedlings are, and I'm going to show you. This is what I used to do. I used to do all the spinach over here, and then I'd go down here and I'd do all the chard here, and then I'd go, you know, do the mizuna here. I used to do that, but I've since learned to do this. So the picture on the right, this is what I do now. I plant a variety of everything in one space. Okay, and then 2 weeks later, I'll do that exact same planting again over here. And the reason I do that now is so when you go up there, you just have to move the cover from that one area because everything's right there that you need. So you've got your onions and everything for your salads right there. Otherwise, you got to unclip every single clip and pull the cover up just to get a little bit of each thing. So that's a little tip for you there. Okay, August, 2 more plantings every couple weeks. And by the way, I need to take that picture out, but the bottom right, that's a watermelon. I don't try to do those anymore. They don't get big enough for me, and it just takes up too much space. It's not worth it for me. September, 2 more plantings. Okay, and then if you have stuff in your garden that needs to come in, you need to do that before the frost. Like I said, the celery, you can move that in. But look at those plants, aren't they beautiful? The Tokyo Bacana on the left, I would recommend, if you don't grow anything else, I would do that, and spinach and onions, probably those 3. But the reason being is because the Tokyo Bacana is very versatile. You can cook with it or eat it raw as a salad or on a sandwich or whatever. It's just like a lettuce almost. Really good. And a lot of those seeds, like I said, I get from Johnny's. I'll leave the catalog up here too if anybody wants to look at that. Okay, so now we're in October, and I've already done with my planting. I'm done with it, but you know, some people like to go another week in there. It just kind of depends on how much space you have. So this is just showing you what's growing in October, and here's November. Isn't that amazing? I mean, look at that food. The Hakurei turnips in the top middle are sweet. They're like apples. You can just sit there and just eat them. Oh, it is just amazing. So if you're looking for something different, kind of fun. Like I said, if you can only do a couple things, at least do spinach. At least do a winter spinach. Because spinach is versatile too. You can eat it raw or cooked. And most people are okay with spinach. Don't feel like you got to go on this list and buy every single plant that I did. Please, just don't overwhelm yourself. Start with 3 or 4 or something. Or if you can, you can get a bunch of the seeds and just keep them back so that you have them, okay? This is just from the first year. I thought it was just amazing. The variety of the colors of what was growing in there. And then people always ask me too, are the plants actually growing? Or are they just staying alive in there? What do you think? So I did some research, and I took pictures from the same years, okay, and the same 6-month period of time over the winter months. So you can see from October to March. Yeah, they're growing. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Slowly, but they are growing. And that's why you want to start them so early, to give them a good head start. Okay? I have tried growing or overwintering like peas, snap peas before, putting them in there like in January and seeing if they just rot. They didn't do very well, so I wouldn't recommend trying to do that. Okay. Wow, I must have talked really fast. What kind of questions do we have on this one? This is a lot. Yes?
How long does the plastic last?
Most of them I've heard 6 years or more. I think it's around $200, at least it was. And I get this question too, how much did it cost you to do it? The first year it cost us $500 to build that. That was including the seeds, the hardware, the lumber, everything, covers. Now it's going to be approximately $1,000, $1,200. But still, if you count the cost and you look at greenhouse kits online, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. Yes?
Are you doing anything for pests that tunnel in the ground?
Yeah, I get that question a lot, like the gopher-type pests. She's asking about pests that tunnel in the ground. There's a few different methods. We have a cat, and the cat keeps a lot of them away, and so do the dogs. But they sell at the co-op little traps that you can put into their tunnels. You have to make sure that you dig way back in the tunnel because they do false tunnels. You have to make sure you get the plugs that they'll put in there out and find the real tunnel and put the trap in there. That'll get them. And they're territorial, so usually they won't come back to that place once you get them. Another idea is in raised beds and things is to put gopher wire. You can actually buy gopher wire, line the bed with that, and then put glass. You can put broken glass underneath there too, and they will not come up inside that. So, yeah. I saw another hand. Yes?
Is that plastic? That's the 6 mil?
Yes,
Plastic?
6 mil plastic. Yeah. I saw a hand over here. No? Don't be shy. Right now it's a 12 by 24. Yeah. Yes.
Have you tried growing fruit trees?
Fruit trees? No. Inside the greenhouse, you mean? I know a friend that grows a fig tree in her greenhouse. It's humongous, but she goes through 19 cords of firewood a year to heat her greenhouse. I'm not going to do that. No. Yeah. But she gets figs. Yeah, I don't want to try to heat a greenhouse. I don't want to worry about heating a greenhouse. I don't want to worry about lighting a greenhouse. None of that. Some people, when they're just starting out, are building, I think they call them wallopinis or something, where you dig like 4 feet down in the ground, and then you put pipes, and you pump in hot air, and you do all this stuff. And that's great. If you can do that, that's fantastic. It will raise the temperature in your greenhouse some. And you can probably put your stuff out there a little bit earlier, and you can probably keep it a little bit later. But in general, the days are so short in the wintertime, and there's not light. You're going to have to supplement all sorts of lighting if you're going to do something like that. And I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible. Yeah?
Do you do fruit trees outside of the greenhouse?
Oh, yeah, fruit tree. Yeah, good question, because I had people ask me that, and I forgot to put it on here. What do you grow outside? I need a chart. So you've got the greenhouse, you've got your orchard. My whole thing is just all fenced in, one gigantic area. It's just easier that way, okay? And your greenhouse needs to be fenced too, okay? Because if you open it, just fence it, okay? So you've got your orchard growing in a separate place, and yeah, in a cold climate, apples and pears and cherries and plums. I tried peach trees, didn't work very well. But anyway, you can do, depending on where you are, see what grows well for your area. And I would be careful going to some place like Home Depot and just buying fruit trees and buying plants unless you know for sure what it is that you're getting and where it came from. Because some things are bred and I don't want to say born, whatever, raised, grown in places like California, and then they're shipped up here. And it's like, I don't know how well. Know your varieties of plants and know your varieties of trees and know which ones would grow. So yeah, there's fruit trees, and then there's a greenhouse, and outside would be like the green beans, rows of cabbage, rows of, what are your other cold things, like greens, and then broccoli. Onions can be outside. Potatoes obviously are outside. The squash are outside. Obviously, all of your perennials like strawberries and berries and things like that, they're all outside. So really, the only things inside your greenhouse are those tender crops that we talked about, like tomatoes and peppers and eggplant. Those three. Oh, all right.
I poop over my garden beds, raised beds, and then I take them off, when the weather stays nice. What's the difference between the plastic and that cloth then for warmth, I guess, and protecting from frost?
Yeah. I know some people use plastic too for frost. I guess you could, but I would still ventilate it, especially during the day, because you'll fry your plants. Yeah. Mm-hmm. As far as the R value on it and what the different, I don't know about that. I haven't researched it, but the ventilation is the thing that I would be most concerned, and these are self-ventilating. But I do know people that do use plastic over hoops. Yeah, so they're making little greenhouses. Just make sure you're ventilating it.
During the day, I always take it off.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, when you said position the longest side of your greenhouse to the south,
Yes.
if the south is here, then your greenhouse is going to have a layout like this, or like this, like this.
Yes.
Okay.
Because you want as many, well, it depends on what your goal is, I guess, but really, even your garden, even your fruit trees, everything needs as much of that southern sun as you can possibly get. Now, if you're behind a mountain, you're in trouble. Forget it. No, not really. But yeah, everything needs to be getting that southern sun. Okay, any other questions on this? Yeah.
Have you tried mushrooms?
I have,
We're
yeah.
in mushroom country, so.
You mean growing them? Yeah, I have. There is a guy up in Bonners Ferry called the Mushroom Man. I can get you his information, but he sells kits of mushrooms. King Strophoria is one I think that he recommended to me. Now, I haven't had them come up yet. This would be my third year, and the mycelium is in there. because I can see it. I've got some in the greenhouse. But I don't know why they haven't popped up yet. I need to research that and find out. I don't know if it's the bed is just too compacted. And you have to keep it watered all the time. It cannot dry out at all.
That lives in Twin Lakes that sells at the farmer's market, and he has his on the lake.
Oh, okay. So he sells the mushroom kits, you mean?
Now he sells the mushrooms.
Oh, okay. Well, you can buy kits online and grow your own logs and things like that. So, yeah.
Do you plant anything underneath your fruit trees?
I had before. I tried to do garlic and a few other things. She's asking if I plant under my fruit trees. The problem is I let my chickens up there because they eat the pests, so I don't plant a lot of stuff up there anymore. In fact, you can let your chickens in your garden before you have anything planted, and they'll eat the pests that are there before you put anything in the garden, and then kick them all out. In the back.
You said that a lot of this is online. Do you have a spot online that we could go to?
Yes, if you take one of my cards, I have a YouTube channel, and so this whole entire seminar is on there. 3 of them from here. Exact same place. I'm probably wearing the same outfit. Yeah.
For the person that asked about fruit trees, comfrey.
Yes, we're going to talk about comfrey in part 3.
Plant comfrey at the bottom of your fruit trees. It's a deep feeder.
Yep.
It's really beneficial. Keeps the bugs away from your fruit.
Yep, and if you don't have comfrey, if you come to the free plant walk, we will be selling comfrey plants, okay, in May. Okay, anything else before we start part 3? Yes?
Just to say, Justin, since everybody's here, if it's okay, I don't know if anybody's familiar with PJ's. He's by the DMV in Priest River, and he sells fruit and nut trees for, it's $45 a tree.
Wow. What's it
And
called?
they're very established.
What's it called? PJ's?
PJ's,
PJs.
he's, like if you're going to the DMV in Priest River,
Okay, it's in Priest River.
just PJ's.
PJs. He sells fruit and nut trees, okay?
Oh, DMV.
I've bought them and I've had really good success with them.
Okay, there we go. So if you need fruit trees, PJs in Priest River. Okay. Any other questions? All right, so do you need, oh, yes, right here. So the string that went across back and forth on that, and if you want to talk to me after, I can tell you again about that, but that has kept the plastic on pretty well for us. But we don't have huge high winds where we are. But I've heard that other people have had good success with just putting string over the plastic. Yeah. Okay. Do y'all need to stand up and stretch, or are you good to just plow on through for a half hour? Oh, I'm hearing mixed. Okay, just stand up for 1 minute. Stretch. And I will get Brent in here. Don't go far.